Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new around here, hello, welcome, my name is Charlotte. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my TBR for the Trick and Treat-a-thon. If you do not know what the Trick or Treat-a-thon is, it is a readathon that I am co-hosting in the month of October. I will leave my announcement video linked in the description below for you to go check out so you can get to grips of what this readathon is if you don't know. If you don't know, go check it out. It is a readathon that I'm co-hosting with a load of my great friends on BookTube, and I'm so excited to be doing it because it's a Halloween spooky themed readathon. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's a very chilled one, and I'm doing it with some people I love. I also want to say thank you to everybody who has supported and followed and shown interest in this readathon. We didn't think that so many people would be so into it, and just seeing all these names of people getting involved and liking tweets and following, it's just making me go like, oh my god, this is happening, like, this is mad. So thank you. We love that so much. I also link the Twitter and the Instagram down below for you to check out for any more information and for all the other stuff that will be happening, or for all the information that will be happening throughout the readathon. But I will be sharing with you my TBR for this readathon. As I said in my announcement video, this is not like a you have to read one book for each prompt. You can't double up. Double up as much as you want, like literally double up. We're encouraging you to double up, like I am doubling up. There are 8 prompts and I'm reading 4 books, or hopefully we'll read 4 books. I think a lot of people are going to try and choose spooky books for this readathon, seeing it is a Halloween spooky October readathon, but me, not all of them are spooky. Pretty much all of them aren't. I don't have too many spooky books on my TBR, my physical TBR, and I don't want to buy more books because I don't need to. So even if some of these books aren't necessarily like spooky, who cares? These are kind of in an order of kind of maybe how I will read them, but I could change that as obviously the month progresses and as we hit October. But I'm just going to throw them out there. So one of the books I'm going to be reading for this readathon is My Sister the Serial Killer by Yinken. Still haven't told myself or gone to see how you pronounce that name, but I'm saying a Yinken Braithwaite. This is, as the title says, is about our main character whose sister is a serial killer. And even if it might not be like Halloween-y, it's still got that like murder, spooky. It's still murder, and that's quite Halloween-y. This is hitting the prompt for which is to read a book with a female lead who will probably hex you if you mess with her. And even though I don't properly know the main character in this, obviously the one who's saying that her sister's a serial killer, she still kind of gives me vibes that she might like hex you if you mess with her, because in this book her sister kills people. Her sister has killed all her boyfriends, and then our main characters helped her sister cover these up. But then also it could count for the sister who, I think if you mess with her, she would hex you or kill you. She probably would kill you because she's killed people in the past. So that's that prompt. And the other prompt that it's hitting is werewolf, and that is to read a book only at night. And as this one is small, I thought if I just read this, you know, when the sun is down at night, which to be fair is when I do a lot of my reading, I can do this one. I'm very excited to get to this because it's one I've been hearing a lot about. It is POC rep, it's written by a black woman, and I'm just very excited to dive into it because I've been meaning to for a while, and I just like how small it is. Next book I'm going to read for this readathon is The Last of August by Brittany Cavallaro. Once again, this is probably the least fitting book for this readathon. This is the second book in the Sherlock Holmes series, which is a series about the descendants of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson if they were actually real people, and it follows Sherlock Holmes and Jamie Watson as they kind of, in the first book, they go to the same school and a murder happens and they're framed for that murder, so then they have to kind of clear their name, and this obviously follows on from that book. I've been meaning to continue on with this series and had this planned for October before the readathon was planned and all that sort of stuff, so I want to still read this. Actually no, that's a lie, I was meant to read it in this month, but I had it because of changing my TBR for the readathon. I thought I'd put it in for October, even though it might not be like top tier spooky because it's YA. It's still like mystery thriller, it's still got murder in it, it's still got a spooky investigation, like oh my god, who killed this person, probably, hopefully. And the prompts that this fits for is vampire, and that's to read a book with a love interest you shouldn't meet in a dark alley. This is the book that I'm bending the prompts the most for, or kind of squeezing it in the most, because this is the one that I've struggled to find a book for the most, because I feel like unless you've read the book you don't know if you wouldn't want to meet the love interest in a dark alley. But with this one, if you could count Charlotte as a love interest, because to Jamie she is kind of love interest because Jamie does kind of have a crush on her, you wouldn't want to meet her down a dark alley. She's not evil, but she's the descendant of Sherlock Holmes and she takes on a lot of the characteristics of Sherlock Holmes, so she's kind of like a sociopath in the best way. She's smart, so I feel like if you met her down a dark alley and tried to mess with her, or if you caught her on a bad day, I don't think that, you know, it wouldn't go down well, but you'd also want to meet her. And I feel like maybe if is it Moriarty, the guy who's obviously the descendant of Moriarty, I think if he maybe becomes a love interest in this one, you probably want to meet him in a dark alley. So once again, I'm kind of guessing and bending the rules. I'm co-hosting this readathon, I can do what I want. This also fits the prompt for Siren, and that is to read a book that people have recommended to you. And to be fair, like all these books people have recommended to me because I've watched booktube videos where people have gone, this is a good book, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this series and love this series. And also I could say I recommend it to myself because I've recommended that I should read this soon because I want to continue with the series. Another book that I will be reading for this readathon is Magnus and the Ship of the Dead. I need to get this read so I can finish this trilogy. Finally, it's taken me so long because it took me like 3 times to read the second book, just because every time I tried to read it I wasn't in the mood. This one I'm very excited for it because again it finishes off the trilogy, which means it gets another trilogy, another series off my to read list. I can finish a series finally, and I'm just very excited because I love the series, I love the characters, I love Rick Riordan, we all love Rick Riordan. This is obviously the concluding novel to the Magnus Chase trilogy, so I can't really say much about it, but the first book follows Magnus Chase. He's a young kid, homeless, living on the streets. And then one day he dies, but then he ends up in Valhalla. He ends up in Asgard, and I can't remember if that's the exactly, but you know, he ends up in all the North 4 world and in all the other kind of 7 realms, and it's about his life there and having to deal with like Loki and all this stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So I feel like if you love Norse mythology, like I think a lot of us do, kind of like we love Greek mythology, if you love Norse mythology and if you like stuff like Thor, it's a really great series and Rick Riordan's great. This is hitting the prompt for Ghost, which was my prompt, and that is to read a book set in a place where you would want to haunt. And once again, I came up with this prompt, but it didn't mean that I have a book in mind for it. I came up with it being like, that's such a cool prompt. And then when it came for me thinking what book I should read for it, I was like, where do I want to haunt? But I decided to go for this one because as it's kind of set in like the Thor world, the Norse mythology world, in terms of like Asgard and Valhalla and all that sort of stuff, I want to haunt Asgard because Asgard, as I've seen it in the kind of stuff like this and Thor and the MCU, it just sounds like such a fun place to haunt. To be fair, you could, because as I said previously, if you don't want to follow those prompts like the read a book early at night, you can just read a book that features a ghost. And in a sense, a lot of the characters in this have died and are obviously now just living their life as a dead person, but in Valhalla and kind of still entering our world, but they're still kind of dead. So technically they're ghosts. This is also hitting the prompt for zombie, which is to read a book where a disaster takes place. One of the things that happens throughout the trilogy is the unthreatening thing that Loki wants to bring around. He wants to bring upon Ragnarok, which is basically like the end of the world. It's the end of everything, basically. It's Judgment Day, it's the end of, you know, end of the world. I think that's a disaster. Even if it doesn't happen, it might happen. And I think that's a disaster. And the final book that I will be reading for this readathon is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. Have been meaning to read this book since the film came out. Have I seen the film? No, because again, I'm one of those people who goes, have to read the book first. And did I ever read the book? No. And I've had this for 2.5 years now and I haven't read it. So now is a time I'm finally, hopefully, praying that I do read it. So, and then at least I can watch the film and finally get on that train.
If you'll pardon the pun.
It's like what I did with Gone Girl. Gone Girl was one of those things I was like, I need to read the book first and then watch the film. And it was one of those films I was like, I need to watch because everyone's telling me to watch, and then I finally did. It was a bit of a disappointment, but that's another story. So I'm going to be reading this for this readathon. Again, it's not the most like spooky Halloween book, but it's still got like mystery and thriller and that sort of stuff. I feel like we're in the perfect season kind of time of the year for this. If you don't know what this book is about, I don't think I do either. I think it's about our main character and she kind of catches the same train every morning to go to work, but then one day she might see something on that train and she's like, okay, or like that doesn't usually happen, so she kind of tries to investigate it. That's what I think it's about. I don't really want to know what it's properly about because I feel like with stuff like thrillers, you want to go in blind, or at least I want to go in blind. One of the prompts that this hits is demon, and that is to read a book that has like multiple perspectives, just like you would if you were possessed by a demon. And I literally was just sitting by my bookshelf flipping through all the books on my bookshelf being like, which of these has multiple perspectives, because I wasn't sure. Yeah, I was flicking through and you've got some chapters by someone called Rachel, which I think is our main character, and then someone by Megan, so that kind of shows that it's multiple perspective. And then the other one is Faye, and that's to read a book you've always been too scared to pick up. And I feel like I have been too scared to pick this up because it's that thing of like, I'm committing myself to finally reading this book so then I can finally watch the film. If I really, really wanted to watch that film, I would have picked the book up at some point and I just haven't. I'm a little bit scared to do it, but I'm gonna do it. I'm finally gonna be reading it. I like that it's got like red sprayed edges. I just honestly think I bought this off of either Amazon or Abe Books, and it just came with, I think it was Abe Books, and it literally just came sprayed red edges, and I was like, fair dues, I'll take it. So that is my TBR for the Trick or Treadathon. As I said, I'm just reading books I want to read and books I can fit for these prompts. I'm not necessarily striving for spooky reads because even though a lot of people do love to read spooky reads in spooky season, and I agree with that. That's great, go forth and do that. I'm not really someone who has to read spooky books and has to read atmospheric, spooky, murdery books this time of year. If I want to read those books, I'll do it all year round. I'm one of those people who, I love spooky season, but I don't go, oh, this is the only time that I can be spooky and can be all like Halloween. Because in a sense, I don't like the day of Halloween because I feel like it's got too much expectations, and the kind of culture around it is just to get, especially how I've done it is, or how I've grown up it being, is like you get dressed up and you go to parties and blah blah blah, and it's like too much pressure and too much expectations. I just love being spooky all year round rather than one specific month or something like that, or a couple of months. And this year, as I'm not at uni, I'm not going to be going to like parties. I'm not in that culture. I'm just living at home with my parents at the moment. I could, you know, go and visit friends and chill with them and have a Halloween with them, but honestly I'm making the effort to stay at home for Halloween this year. Put myself in my room, maybe turn the lights off, make it all dark, and just put some spooky films on and have a good time. But I'm just going to be sitting in my room watching some spooky stuff, living my best spooky life rather than having that expectations of having to get a costume and all that, because that stresses me out every year. Do not like it. Last year was the only year that I'm actually gone, pretty proud of my costumes. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're taking part of this readathon, I would love to know. Thank you as well. And if you are, let me know if you've made a TBR video or anything you've done. Like if you have a TBR, just let me know. I want to know. So with that all said and done, if you're new around here, do not forget to subscribe. All my social media links are linked in the description below. I think I said that right. And I will see you all in my next video.